I'm very excited to see how it goes. I just want to see an amazing race. I'm all up for dramatic races, and I think this one's got the potential to be just that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just glad that this isn't an event that we're just quickly skipping over anymore. It's been a few years where we have quickly skipped over, unless it's like an Olympic year where there's someone going for what is usually a very fast consideration time.
Hello and welcome to the opening episode of our Aquatics GB Swimming Championships preview series. And it's a pleasure today to be joined by Scott and Dan of Propulsion Swimming. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Now, as we're opening up each episode, trying to find out a little bit more about our guests and what they do. Can you guys tell me a bit more about Propulsion?
It's a wide-reaching definition, I would guess, but essentially what Propulsion Swimming and what we aim to do is essentially provide a platform, or like an independent platform, to tell the stories from around UK swimming and connect essentially the grassroots with the elite. That's something we've always strive to do. Whether that's through podcasts, whether that's through social media, whether that's through like race analysis, tutorials, we kind of cover a broad range of everything you can think of. But essentially, we're just trying to get swimming to the masses and to get more people loving it and enjoying it. And it's been 5 years of it now, and we're still loving every second. And still going strong.
Any highlights so far, Dan, over the past 5 years?
Oh, there's actually been quite a few, if we're honest. We were both swimmers beforehand, but we never thought we'd get to the stage of actually being able to interview the best swimmers this country's ever had, in the likes of Duncan, Scott, Adam Peaty, Abby Wood, those type of swimmers, as well as doing videos with like behind the scenes sort of footage of them training, doing lactic tolerance sets like we did with Ollie Morgan this year, actually, or just this year. So we're very privileged to be in this position. We appreciate it very much, the fact that these swimmers open up their lives effectively on the podcast, telling us their journey and their career so far, as well as getting behind the scenes of them training. And it's just great to see them doing so well when it comes to competitions.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased that your expertise and your love of the sport is joining me on this episode. So we'll take a look at the opening races and the top seeds in those. So we've just seen there the top seeds for the women's 50-meter breaststroke, the men's 400-meter freestyle, and the women's 200-meter butterfly. And the racing on the night opens up with the multi-classification event in the women's 50-meter breaststroke. Only Ellie Chalice in that one, the SB2 world champion in 2023 in Manchester and world record holder in a classification. I just want to ask you guys thoughts on Ellie Chalice and obviously the amazing things she's kind of achieved over the past few years.
Oh, she's we've had the pleasure of like having a conversation with her on the podcast, meeting her on poolside, and she is one of the best characters in swimming that I've come across. There's never a moment when the smile isn't on her face. Yeah. And I know she takes great pride in being like an inspiration for the lower classifications because they struggle for representation. And I think every time I see her racing, like there's not a moment I don't think she's trying her hardest. And at the same time, I don't think there's a moment that she isn't enjoying every single second that she's in the swimming pool. And it's kind of a pleasure to see someone enjoy the sport quite as much as she does.
Because she's got that enjoyment and passion in the pool, that's the reason why she's getting results. Like I think the World Championships not so long ago, she got a boatload of medals in events, unfortunately, that aren't Paralympic events. But if those events were at the Paralympics, we'd be talking about one of the best swimmers Paralympics has, especially in this country anyway.
Yeah.
She certainly is a versatile swimmer and has been a shining light for us in those lower classifications. And then on the Olympic pathway side, It's not an Olympic event, but we have Angharad Aarons, Cara Hanlon, and Anna Morgan leading as the top 3 seeds there. And that's going to be a really, really close race that kind of sharpens them for events to come.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's always a good, especially when you've got your main Olympic events later on in the schedule. It's a good one to get the nerves out of the way, like getting used to racing at the London Aquatic Centre, because it is a big venue. And it is one of the only times that they're going to get the chance to race there this year. So in a way, it's good to have that free hit. But at the same time, like, it is a world's event, even if it's not on the Olympic pathway. So should any of them put their hands up and do a stunning swim, you never know. There could be an outside selection for them this summer in Singapore.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an advocate to try and get the 50s involved in the Olympics, but I know it's a massive schedule clash, and it's already been added a day, hasn't it? So it's 9 days, the Olympics. Add the 50s in, there have to be maybe like 10 days, and there'll be lots of like conflicts and everything like that. But I think it's a good chance for these girls, a bit like what Scott was saying, for them to break the cobwebs off, get them used to the event, and get them firing immediately.
Down there, you referenced that if you were going to try and fit them in, is there any sort of way you've factored or thought about that it might work?
I have a strong opinion of this.
Oh, go on. Let's go with you then.
The stroke events for the 200 meters and the 200 meters, especially for the stroke events, just aren't deep enough to warrant semi-finals. I don't think at an Olympic level. So I think you could lose those from the schedule and potentially put in the 50s. Whether that means semi-finals for 50s as well, I don't know, because then you're talking, that's another long schedule that a 50 swimmer has to compete in. But I think as a sport in general, we need them there, because sport is getting ever faster, ever quicker. Attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Everyone just wants to see the fastest. It's what makes running so good. And I think if we can get more people just swimming as fast as humanly possible, well, that's relatable. So get them in the sport. It's my opinion.
I mean, you could be right. Semi-finals, because we always say this, don't we? Like, there are some events in the Olympic schedule where the semi-finals are nearly just as fast as the heats. So they're just swimming the same race pace twice. And then the final, obviously, they go all out. So is that really sort of needed? And that would save quite a bit of time, because obviously semi-finals, there's 2 races, there's a 200 meters, so let's just round figures. It's like 3 minutes per race, plus the walk-on. So you're saving quite a bit of time. Yeah. And you could throw in a couple of 50s during that time. So maybe you're right, but I think the schedule will be ever tough. I'd love to see it. I would love to see it, but I don't foresee it happening, unfortunately.
It's an interesting take. Maybe Kirsty Coventry is tuning into this and might take it on board. Maybe. But it's one that we could talk about a lot longer, but we'll move on for this point in time to the men's 400-meter freestyle. Again, on the para-swimming side, got Sam Downey, S8 athlete, Thomas Navarro-Barra, S9, and Bruce D, S6. On a points level, this is probably going to be quite a tight race. Yeah, just your thoughts, guys, on multi-classification racing. Obviously, you spoke about earlier, depth in fields, that chance to kind of build up that racing moment, really, in terms of in London.
Yeah, multi-classification racing is kind of tough if you don't know what's going on, which is why having like educated announcers like in the venue or on commentary is really, really helpful, just to know what a point system is to start with, and just to know that first hand on the wall isn't necessarily first in timing. And I think especially at like the World Series events that I've seen recently for the para side, like the way that they do the graphics on the screen and when it comes to racing is they do like a countdown of points, like instead of a timing of the board. And you can see like if the swimmer who's approaching the wall is still in with a chance of winning, like as they get closer and closer to the wall, their points total gets smaller and smaller, but you know what the winning or the current winning points total is. Here in the UK, I think we're kind of privileged that some of the classifications are have really good depth to them. So essentially you do get races within races. So you will get, not necessarily in this event, but in some of the events later on in the meet, there's really strong S14 swimmers, and you get the chance to see them race against each other, which is hard and sometimes lost in mixed classification races. It's hard for some of the swimmers like Bruce D, who's an S6, who will likely be racing by himself against a clock. But at the same time, I don't think that takes away from the atmosphere in the venue. We saw it last year, like even when swimmers were by themselves in the whole final. If anything, those were the loudest races of the night, and Bruce was in some of those finals.
I just think the integration of swimming and paraswimming together at Aquatics GB Championships is much needed and a fantastic move, because then some fans, I think most fans, would know who these paraswimmers are. Alice Ty is probably the biggest name I would have thought on the paraswimming side for GB. But I think there's a lot of swimmers, let's say Bruce Lee, for example, coming through Iona Winifred. Those guys are such a young age, and because they're put in this scenario with the arena, let's say, of London Aquatics Centre, with a London crowd getting behind them, it's just a fantastic way to get exposure on the big stage before they go to a Paralympics or a World Champs and stuff like that. So I think it's a good thing that they've integrated together, just so everyone gets to know all of the best swimmers in this country, not just not just the able-bodied swimmers as well.
Yeah, we do always say like the para scene in this country is kind of underrated for the depth and the quality that it is. And when it comes to like a mixed classification final, like in the men's 400 meters freestyle that we're talking about now, you really get to see just how many top quality swimmers there are across so many different classifications.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's been a real celebration that we've managed to do that since last year and bring it into a fully integrated championships. Just going to take a look now at the Olympic pathway event for the men's 400 freestyle. A really interesting affair coming up with Kieran Bird obviously coming in to try and retain his title. James Guy's in there alongside Tyler Melbourne Smith. James Guy's British record in this event, basically a decade old.
Yeah.
So how do you see this one unfolding, if you can tell at all?
I mean, based on the season so far, and we've seen James Guy race it a few times, like the 400 meters freestyle at Bucks and at the Edinburgh International leading into Aquatics GB Champs, he looks like he's going to be the guy to take it out from the gun. Is the way he likes to race this. And I have to say, even though his British record's 10 years old, he's not raced this event for God knows how many years. He's still my favorite in this. There's just pure quality that he's got, and his aerobic depth that he's been building since he moved to the Manchester Performance Squad is just getting better and better. And yeah, it's almost like there's a new presence in, well, it's going to be in the cool room, let alone in the pool, just to have James Guy racing a 400 meters freestyle, because this is the event he made his name in, really, to start with. I think it's a good move that he's back, because this event has kind of been ignored a little bit too long based on the 4x2 success. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does, and maybe Jack McMillan as well. Like,
Dark horse.
Yeah, dark horse. His freestyle stroke and his technique is really, really impressive. I've longed to see him race this at a top meet. Like, he races it quite a lot in season. To see what he can do in a taper in the 400 meters freestyle is, again, exciting, like Jimmy. Dan, I know you're a fan of Tyler Melbourne Smith, though.
I am, yeah. I honestly think tactics play a huge role. They do anyway in the 400 free, but in this race particularly, because I think I agree with you here, where Jimmy may probably just take out from the gun and assert his dominance. But then you've got someone like Tyler Melbourne Smith, who is, well, we had him on a podcast not so long ago, and we still don't know what his favorite event is, but he's targeting at the moment the 800 sort of range, so the longer distance events, which means he's going to have the engine at the back end to potentially reel Jimmy in. And not just that, I mean, Kieran Bird, I know the swims haven't been amazing so far this year, but I would never write him off either. Every time he races at a major champs, he seems to pull it out of the bag. Admittedly, just before the Olympics, but even still, I would never write him off either. So I don't know if I agree that Jimmy's the favorite. He's definitely going to be right up there. But I think this is a year for these young swimmers to come through. I think Tyler might just be the one to put his name in a hat and say, this is mine for the taking now. Not just this race, but the other distance events as well. But I think I'm going to go for Tyler on this one. There's been some strong performances in recent months. Yeah, there's been some good races. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how it goes. I just want to see an amazing race. I'm all up for dramatic races, and I think this one's got the potential to be just that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just glad that this isn't an event that we're just quickly skipping over anymore. It's been a few years where we have quickly skipped over, unless it's like an Olympic year where there's someone going for what is usually a very fast consideration time to make the team. Now we've got 4-5 guys that we're looking at just going, you know what, this is going to be a really, really good race to really build some momentum into the rest of the meet.
Yeah,
certainly. I think it's going to be a very, very tight one, and as you could go with all the names you've thrown out there, very hard to call. And then we've got the women's 200-meter butterfly following that as we come into the halfway stage of the programme. Kiana McInnes, Laura Stevens and Emily Richards heading up that one against the top seeds. Laura Stevens holds the world title currently in that, an Olympic finalist. And as last year, it was such a spectacle to watch with how Kiana came home on that one.
Yeah, the way these two race against each other, I'm not going to ignore Emily Richards, we'll get to her, but the way these two race each other all the time, because they've both been going up against each other at Bucks. They always go up against each other at the Edinburgh International. It's just whoever gets their hand on the wall first. And for me, like the quality on show of these two, they both really deserve to be in that Olympic final last year. And I think Kiana came 9th in the semi-finals and just missed out making it. I think just shows the depth that we've got here in this event, in this, like, from like an international standpoint, having two swimmers who are constantly going back and forth whenever it is, whether it's in season, whether it's at British Champs. I think maybe we take it for granted slightly.
Yeah, it's a tough event, isn't it? But the fact that Laura Stevens is now the reigning world champion says a lot, I think. And the fact that, Laura is there, Kiana's there, Emily's there, recently just got married. In my head, she's still Emily Large, but I need to get that out quickly because it's Emily Richards now, of course. Manchester swimmers are looking pretty good right now, I have to say. And of course, Emily is training up there with Matt, of course. So I wouldn't write her off, even though in my head it's a tussle between Laura and Kiana. And Kiana seems to be, relating back to the 400 free a minute. So I think Laura is the one to take it out for the first 100 and then basically hold on. And then Kiana comes back quite strong, and it's a bit of a tussle to see who gets their hand on the wall first. It's going to be a fascinating race, and I think it will be exactly the way the 400 goes. It's just who does the better tactic. Is it going out quicker the best way, or coming back quicker the best way? So can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, interesting to tactically see how those ladies played out. We're just going to take a pause now to look at the seeds for the final two races of the night. So there we've just seen the top seeds for the men's 100-meter breaststroke and the women's 200-meter freestyle. So we're just again going to have a look at the para swimming race first, the multi-classification race. We've got Harry Stewart leading the line for the SB14s, and Bruce D, who's coming back in, having doubled up earlier on the 400 SB6 class. And again, it's going to be quite a close one, but I just want to ask about Bruce D. He's obviously pushing that time down, pushed down that British record in Paris in his classification, and might just be able to kind of nudge into the medals this year in this event.
Yeah, he comes from a really, really good setup and program for para swimming. Like, Northampton is the breeding ground really for success in terms of like the club scene. And they've got so much experience in the SB6 category with Will Perry, with Maisie Summers-Newton. I know he's got two great, like, not just idols, like club mates that he can look up to. I know Will is now retired. But it's so great that he's got that experience in his corner to lean on, and two people who will be so close to his journey that were helping him along the way, because he's still relatively young in the sport of para swimming. And it's so important that, well, Maisie's seen it all. To have that in your corner, you can't really trump that. So if he is going to get on the medal podium, who better to inspire him on the way than someone he trains with week in, week out?
I remember when we had Will Perry on the podcast, actually, and he said Northampton coaches have this secret weapon of how to swim breaststroke faster, and he didn't disclose it. Yeah, he didn't disclose it. So I'm assuming Bruce D will have that knowledge as well. And again, this might be his time to get on the podium. I'd love to see it, but again, he's the only SB6, so he's effectively racing himself. But this is where we need that graphic of the para points coming down, and we can actually see what's working. But Northampton's doing something really quite special up there. Really, they have been doing it for years and years.
And again, slightly segueing to a bit of a topic here, but the fact he's doubling up, just in general, swimmers that double up, your experience, being in these kind of competitions yourselves and seeing swimmers and chatting to them, what's the way that you kind of manage that when it's compacted in a schedule and you're targeting two different things?
Oh man, Dan was definitely the one who raced at the competitions like this. Not so much me, but from speaking around, it's all about controlling emotions. Not getting too high, not getting too low, and getting straight on to the next one. I think Duncan Scott's the perfect example of it. He just loves to race, and I mean the pain and everything from it. It's not. I'm not saying it's not a factor, but it just pushes it to the back of his mind. And the more that you double up, the more that you do race multi events in single days, the easier it is to get used to it. So for some swimmers, it'll be a shock to the system. But for others, you go to like your 3-day weekend meets, they will be swimming 3-4 times in a final session, back to back, maybe even more than that. And it just becomes like muscle memory. And you just control the emotions into that environment. And yep, Aquatics GB Champs is a bit of a bigger stage to be doing a double. But I think you just have to treat it what it is, and it's a race in the swimming pool. And then you move on, and then you look back on it, and then you can appreciate what you've done.
I suppose that's the psychological part of it, or the mentality, and then physically you've got to make sure you're super disciplined. Like you go as soon as you finished your race, get hydrated, have something to eat snack wise, do your swim down, stretch, whatever you need to do, and then you've got to prime again, ready for the next race, and that's when the mental side comes into it. But you've got to make sure you do it all quite quickly after a race. And I know for some of these swimmers who've then got to climb out, do an interview, do more interviews on the side of the pool.
Ignore the interviews at that point.
Yeah, you got to go past. So yeah, there's different sides of it, the mental and the physical. But these swimmers, I think they get used to it. When it comes to training, they'll do their stand-ups in the pool. They'll do their, let's say, broken twos over and over again. So they'll be used to it. Lactic tolerance sets, all those sort of things. So it comes down to a discipline a lot of the time.
It's fascinating insight. And yeah, we're just going to move on to the Olympic Pathway event. It's going to be a little bit of a changing of the guard for this year, just in terms of who takes that title. Archie Goodburn coming in on 1 minute 0.03, Max Morgan 1 minute 0.1, and Gregory Butler 1 minute 0.26. So there's not a lot separating those top three seeds in this. What are your kind of thoughts in terms of looking at this race, in terms of, obviously, it's a race people have looked at for many, many years, and there's a chance here for one of these guys to try and break through that minute mark and get onto a team.
Yeah, it's always a hard race when Adam isn't here, maybe even more so than when he is here, because I think it puts a lot more pressure on people to stand up, because everyone wants to know who's going to replace Adam this summer in that medley relay, who's going to be the person, because, well, we need a replacement for Adam. But actually all three that you've mentioned, there may be even a few further back in the depth chart, they've all got capability to go sub 60. I think that would be the target for them. I don't think, maybe they will care. I don't think they care if they get their hand on the wall first, but I think sub 60, all of them are so close to sub 60 that they really, really want that at this meet. I hope we see 2, 3. That's kind of all I want from this race. A sub 60 100 meters breaststroke, I'll be happy.
Yeah, wow, you say there might be 3 swimmers. I think there could be potentially 4 swimmers that go sub-minute, which means the depth in this event has just exploded. And I'm going to sort of echo what I said earlier, where I think the young guns are going to come through here. Max Morgan has definitely taken a bit of a spotlight, I think, who's probably the next swimmer to watch, or maybe Philip Nowacki. These swimmers, they're still teenagers. But then you've got the old, like I say old guard, they're not that old, obviously, but you've got Greg Butler, Archie Goodburn, who are there in their mid-20s, who have a brilliant chance to become British champions for the first time. It's very difficult to become British champion when Adam Peaty's been in the pool, obviously. But there's a lot of to take away in this race. I think the sub-minute will be a massive target, but I think if you get the win, you'll get that anyway. So, yeah, it's a really good and exciting race, this one. It's a changing of the guard, like you say. A new champion will be crowned.
And I guess in contrast to the opening race of the night, for this event, it really is quite a key fixture in terms of both the Olympic pathway and world qualification. And for athletes that might be trying to, I suppose, move up from more of a sprint event or down from the slightly longer breaststroke event, are there any sort of key aspects that might be part of their preparations to get in there and I suppose target this first race of the meet for them?
I think if you're a sprinter and you're going up to the 100, so if you've specialized in the 50, it's always hard. We actually talked to Tyler Melbourne Smith, and the reason that he stayed as a distance swimmer, I know that's a completely different distance, 1500 down to what he's aiming at as the 2. But if you think the 50 going up to the 1, that's a kind of a big ask. You're doubling the distance of what you're capable of. Whereas if you're a 200 specialist and you're coming down, you're having the distance. So you're going to be specialized at being able to maintain your speed for longer. And I think that's all what the 100 I think that's all that the 100 breaststroke is about, is maintaining your maximum speed as long as possible. So for a sprinter like, let's say, Archie Goodman in this, who is specialized at the 50, he's trying to keep that easy speed for as long as possible. Whereas someone else like Greg, who really excels at the 2, I know Archie does do the 2 very well as well, he's more trying to be at max speed for as long as possible. And his max speed isn't as high as Archie's, but he can hold it for longer.
A lot of it comes down to stroke rate, I think. When you have someone like Archie, whose stroke rate is pretty quick, a bit like Adam's, I suppose, but then you go on the contrast and look at Greg's. Greg probably isn't able to go as quick with his stroke rate as Archie, but he is, let's say, potentially more efficient with his kick because he's got a longer glide and that sort of stuff, which then is more suitable for the 200. So it's which way is easier? Maybe going from the 2 down to the 1 is easier. I'm not sure, but the easy speed. The easy speed is. I
tell you what, for every other stroke, I would say coming from the 2 down to the 1 is easier than going 50 to 100, apart from breaststroke, because of what Adam has done for that stroke. And for the power that's now associated to 100 meters breaststroke, from my opinion.
He's very much changed how the stroke goes, really.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot more aggressive, almost. He attacks the water almost.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like James Wilby wasn't quite as aggressive, but he was able to go for a longer distance of time because he was a specialist in the 200. But yeah, everyone has their different techniques and whatever works for them.
I appreciate the way you've unpacked that so well, having me just thrown that question out there. But we'll move on to our final couple of races of the night. It's the women's 200 meter freestyle. It's going to be an all S14 affair in the multi-classification event. Poppy Maskill and Louise Fiddis, the S14 silver and bronze medalists in Paris in there. Olivia Newman-Bronius, another member of the Paris team as well. And it's going to be a close-fought race. It always is high competition for those places on the team in the 200 freestyle.
Yeah, after this summer, I kind of hope that some of these girls get the homecoming that they deserve, because Poppy had one of the best Paralympic games that we've seen from a GB athlete. She obviously was the flag bearer at the closing games. She should really be starting to take the mantle of as one of the faces of Aquatics GB para swimming side. But the 200 meters freestyle in this country has always had incredible depth. Like even the names that you've just talked to coming through, Georgia Sheffield as well. And then you think of the former S14 swimmers who maybe aren't racing at this meet, Jessica Jane Applegate. You've got Bethany Firth as well. It has been the event, the women's 200 meters freestyle mixed classification, to keep an eye on, because almost whichever swimmers you take in this event have a very, very good chance of medaling at the major competition in the summer.
Yeah, it's very similar to the able-bodied side of things when it comes to the men's 200 free, where the relay almost becomes precedent. So if you're in the top 4, then you're almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but you've got a very strong chance of getting a medal at these international competitions. And it's the same with these girls as well. I think, yeah, Poppy Maskill probably should be the face of para swimming in this country right now, as well as Alice Tai, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. But this is an amazing race. Honestly, it really is. The fact that they're all S14s, so it literally comes down to
straight
the
shootout.
race. Yeah, it's just a straight shootout. And it's not one to be missed. This race never really disappoints at all.
It certainly doesn't. There's been some close affairs in that down the years. And moving now on to our last race of the night. Freya Colbert leads the line in the women's 200 meter freestyle Olympic pathway event. Abby Wood in there, Freya Anderson, Lucy Hope, Leah Schlossen, Holly Hibbert. I mean, again, it's quite a heavily stacked race to bring our first evening to a wonderful close.
Yeah, I think the women will want me to say this, and that they want this event to be as strong as the men's event in the 200 meters freestyle. They want this to be their showcase event because they all, I think from speaking to a few of them, they all want that 4x200 meters freestyle relay to be as successful as the men's side. Yes, they've got some incredible competition on the international stage, but you've just listed off the names there. Freya Colbert's a world champion. We all know what Freya Anderson is capable of. Abby Wood deserves a lot more international medals than she's got to her name purely because of the events that she's racing in and the competition that are in those events. She just doesn't have them just yet. But put the four of them together, and that is a world class team. All of them realistically capable of sub 158s. I think if Lucy's really on her day as well, she can get down to that as well. Yeah, it's really exciting, and I think they've taken. I think they've seen what the men's side is capable of, and almost the atmosphere and the drama that can be created at a meet like this by having one event that's incredibly strong. And I really hope that they almost set the tone and tell the guys, step it up from here. Like, this is what we've got the bar at this level. I don't know who's going to win. Obviously, Freya was the standout in this event last year. But I mean, Freya Anderson coming back to full strength. Abby Wood is Abby Wood. Like, we rate her as probably the best women's swimmer in this country. Yeah, I'm kind of running out of superlatives just because I can't wait to watch it.
I just love the fact that there's some depth behind those names you've said as well. So your Phoebe Cooper, your Erin Little, your Mia Slevin and Evelyn Davis, those sort of swimmers as well, who are not quite their sub 2 just yet, but they're like a second or two off. But give it a year or two, maybe they'll be in the sub 2 category as well. And then suddenly you've got a massive race on your hand. If you've got 8 swimmers all going sub 2, then you're looking at some mega race. And I know we talk about the men's 200 free is amazing because, 3 of those guys could easily win Olympic gold, for example. But these girls are right in there with potentially winning medals themselves individually, but as a relay team, really putting an exclamation mark against the Americans or the Australians, of course, somewhere down the line, which is really what I'm really hoping for. So, yeah, as much as you're watching the girls at the front, watch the ones who are slightly younger, who may be just a little bit behind this year, but next year, watch out for them.
Yeah, I always find it really interesting that this is Freya Colbert's first hit out at the champs, and it's not her main event. It never really will be, I don't think, given that it clashes, I think, with the 400 IM when it comes to a major schedule, which means it's a free hit. It's a pressure release like we talked about earlier with the 50 meters breaststroke. But this is an Olympic event. This is an event that she could go and race at the World Championships, and she's got a pressure-free hit at it. A lot of swimmers would be privileged to have that opportunity in their Aquatics GB program. Maybe one day she does go and race this at a world's level. I don't think we've really seen what she's fully capable of in the 200 meters freestyle.
You say that Abby's main event, I would say, is a 2 IM. For Anton, maybe the
100 free.
100, yeah. So none of these swimmers really, this is their main event. It's almost like their secondary event. But yeah, I think either way, it's going to be an amazing race and one to watch out for, and an amazing way to end day one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just to ask on this one as well, the British record in this one stands at 1 minute 55 seconds 54. That's by Joanne Jackson in 2009. So it's still a little while now. A brilliant record, but potentially could go.
Yes, given the depth that we've literally just talked about, and Freya's within 0.5 of that based on her PB.
Half a second, so yeah,
half a second. Yeah, I mean, there's every chance. Will it come at this meet, or will it come later on in the summer if she ever gets the chance to race it? Maybe if she's leading off the 4x2 relay. We might have to wait till Singapore because I think that's a fast pool, and we'll see some very, very fast swims at this summer's World Championships. But at the same time, yeah, we've literally just gone through, like, when there's a depth to a race, especially at a domestic level, you get fast times because of fast competition. It doesn't get much better than this. Or maybe there's a few later that we might bring up. But yeah, I mean, when you've got these quality swimmers going up against each other, yeah, British record, why not? Why not?
There's always a chance. If you're within half a second, there's a chance. That's for sure. When it comes to Freya Colbert, who, hits PBs almost for fun at times, ever improving as well. there's always a chance. But I think I'm leaning towards funnily you brought it up, leading the relay off in Singapore. I think that's where that record could potentially go. With it being her first event at this GB Championships. She is probably targeting the 4 a.m. more so than this. That doesn't mean that she's not going to give it her all, of course. I'm just leaning towards it will be the Singapore because it's a fast pool, being the relay, being the main swimmer. I think that will happen then, but I'd love to see it happen on the end of day one. Absolutely so.
I'm sure we will see records at some point across the week, and it always brings excitement. But yeah, thank you guys for chatting through the racing schedule with me. As you know, Podcasters Predict is coming up, but for everyone at home, here's how it works.
Podcasters Predict. Guests across our preview series are participating in a bit of friendly competition, putting forward their predictions for 6 set races across the meet. A correct gold medal prediction scores them 5 points, while 2 points will be scored if their chosen swimmer places second, and 1 point for bronze. Follow Aquatics GB socials to see who takes the Podcasters Predict crown.
So, Scott, Dan, this is the little bit of friendly competition between our guests across these episodes. You've seen the 6 races in there. Are there perhaps 2 or 3 that you're willing to tease out as being your picks for this championships?
Okay, so the thing we've got to do here, which sometimes me and Dan struggle on, is agree. Okay, so if I'm thinking right, we just got to pick the winner. So as we've previewed day one, I don't want to cop out and avoid the 100 meters breaststroke. You've given it to us as an option, so we're going to put our names to it. And we always like a bold prediction, and we don't like putting pressure on young swimmers. But I think Max Morgan has something very, very special about him. I think he's got Archie to beat, given that he's the fastest entry. But Max really seems like he's in the ascendance. Seeing what he did last year at Aquatics GB Championships, we kind of bumped into him poolside, and he was like relishing in it. He wasn't afraid of that whatsoever. He then went on to do very good things at European Juniors. I kind of want to see him step up, so I'm gonna go Max Morgan, and hopefully Dan agrees with me. Max Morgan in the 100 meters breaststroke.
Yeah, well, we're known for a bold prediction on this podcast, and we're very much in the zone, or I am especially, that these young swimmers are going to come through. And Max Morgan, I think, is the one. No, I think a number of them are going to break sub 60, like I said earlier. But I think Max Morgan's going to get his hand on the wall first. Would he be classed as an underdog winning that? I probably think so, with Archie and Greg being the top 2, I think, going in, I would have thought, based on experience and everything else that comes with it. But I think Max might just do it. It'd be a bit of a turn up for the books, I think. But yeah, no, I'm going for Max as well.
Women's mixed classification, 100 meters breaststroke. I think we're agreed that Alice Tai is probably one of the best para swimmers in the world. So I think we're going to pick her to win that event.
Well, what amazes me about Alice Tai is that she's got like amputee, obviously, and she goes a 109, I think, of PB is, and then we've got able-bodied swimmers going 58.59, which is only 10 seconds quicker, and Alice is missing most of her leg. Just proves how amazing she is as a swimmer. But yeah, I think Alice Tai will get the win on the 100 backstroke, but she'll be very closely contested by Poppy Maskell, who is in the form of her life right now.
Yep. Okay, then I guess to finish the meet, the men's 200 meters freestyle, we can't leave here without a prediction, and we will put our names to it. I'll go Matt Richards. It's a weird event this year. I think it's not as pressurized as it has been over previous years because of pre-selection policies and people aiming at different events and getting the opportunity to train through to Singapore, which actually I think in the long run is very, very good. But Matt struggles to lose, if that makes sense. He somehow last year, you watched the footage back, somehow he held off Duncan in the 100 and the 200. I'm just going to go Matt Richards for the men's 200 meters freestyle purely because he just doesn't like to lose in this country.
Difficult to bet against Duncan, and I've done it once and I will never do it again. He is a fantastic swimmer, raced pretty well up in Edinburgh, as did Matt, of course, as well. I think Jack McMillan might be a dark horse in this event. I'd watch out for him. But if we're talking about,
he's not pre-selected.
No, exactly. So there's a bit more impetus for him to really go for it. Not that these guys won't go for it, of course. But I'm agreeing. I think Matt is the one to watch here. He is the one who's going to be touching the wall first and winning gold and becoming British champion yet again.
Well, Scott, Dan, thank you much for your bold predictions. We'll look forward to seeing how they play out across the week. And yeah, I just want to take this chance to say thank you very much for giving up your time to chat through this. Very much looking forward to hearing your own bits across the championships. I know you're busy and active there, and yeah, I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about any of the projects you've particularly got coming up or things to look out for.
Yeah, so we are going to be poolside like every day at the Aquatics GB Championships, capturing our own footage, and hopefully this year kind of sharing a little bit more behind the scenes of what's going on at these championships. Maybe the cool room that you've never seen before, maybe the walk that some swimmers have got to make when it goes to the blocks. I think we're really trying to step up seeing away from the competition. Like, I think the competition's great, but I think without the journey behind the swimmers getting to the competition, there's no success. And I think that's something we're really trying to showcase across our channels, across Instagram, YouTube. In the series that we're calling Propulsion Poolside, we're trying to get to as many training sessions essentially as possible, and just seeing how swimming taking place, whether it is after these championships leading into worlds, or whether it's even like the Aquatics GB Next Gen Championships, like how some schools and clubs are preparing for that. We're really trying to showcase that, as well as Dan's little project baby in like tutorials and linking and trying to help young swimmers and like learn to swim improve.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been doing it is doing basically tutorials on race skills. So things like how to dive, how to do certain turns, IM turns, back to breast, crossovers, all those sort of things. So they're all in the pipeline. I've done a couple. I need to get into doing a couple more. But yeah, going back to the propulsion pool side, it's basically getting to know the swimmer as a human, not as a robot, really. Like, you see them swim really well at Paris, for example, but then you don't see them afterwards and the emotions that they go through and stuff like that. As well, that's where it kind of leads into podcast guests, and we'll always have a new guest on roughly every week, depends on their availability, of course. So our aim is to try and get on a standout British swimmer, of course, after British champs. That's the aim.
That's great. Yeah, I will drop a load of links in our description below for how people can find that and follow you guys along that journey. But yeah, thank you again so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you both in London.
Thank you very much for having us.